I think it's the political side of things needs to sort itself out because um, I would assume there needs to be agreements between different countries to be able to create co-production. So then it means money, and um, and really I think that's the thing that motivates an awful lot of work is the money, because everybody needs to be paid for something. But you see, my attitude to film is I like doing it. So the point is, if I'm not working on something, I'll quite happily work on something else. Um, and some of the stuff is for myself, some of it is for, earning a living. And there's lots of people here that, seem to be at least inspired to do stuff. And I would imagine that the young directors and young producers, and, that's going to be the kind of soul of the place. I mean, actors and things that can actually carry a story and start creating stuff around here. The big thing is, I think, is just not to say, I can't, because I think everybody can, get out there and do something. I mean, Croatia, you see, was lucky because it had Dubrovnik, and thus it got Game of Thrones into Dubrovnik, and I mean, it seemed to be the perfect place because I mean, it very, excellent old city. But I remember when I first went to Herzegovina, and I mean, for me, smaller stories, smaller scale, stories set today, it was there was enough stuff there to make me really interested. I mean, if I could make something, it would be fantastic. And so I did a little short film. I did part of it in Herzegovina. I mean, it's kind of like an arty thing, so it's not going to make some kind of huge commercial impact. But the point was, it was just nice to do it, to use it, to see if what I'd been thinking about the place actually worked. So then I went away and wrote another story, like a 30-minute story that I would love to make over here. Again, it was because I was inspired by the backdrops that I saw and the people that I met and so on. But when you look at the whole of this whole area, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro. I mean, that's the ones I've been to, and I'm sure there's lots more areas here. The fact is the landscape's incredible. There have to be stories that can be made here. It's the same thing as making them anywhere. Northern Ireland is really small, and we've ended up with huge studios over there, which took its time because when I first started doing film work, there was maybe one film a year being made. We've got TV series happening all the time, and we've got films coming in looking for studio space, and there isn't enough space. I mean, and that came out of all of the work that was happening in Northern Ireland, all the crew that was building up. I mean, one of the big things there was that we've now ended up with an international crew that works on films, which once upon a time, a lot of the crews were bought in, so there would be some of us working on it, but a lot of it would be crews from England or Americans, and it became more and more people fitted into the skills. They realized that they also could do it. I mean, they always knew they could do it, but it was getting the other people to think that they could do it, and that would be probably the same thing over here. I mean, I don't know what the film crew situation is in this whole area, but it's one of those things to generate, and the thing is that only happens, I guess, with young people going out and making stuff, so they begin to say yes to everything instead of no to everything. It's that thing of I've got this bit of equipment, I'm going to go and make something. Because back when I had started doing stuff, they were still, making short films on film, and it was costing. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. It was like um, £30,000 or £60,000, depending on the length, to make a short film. Now we get offered £4,500 to make a short film because it's digital. But the thing about digital is that it makes everything accessible. And one of the reasons I wanted to do my own shorts was because I was always telling myself, oh, but you're going to need this, you're going to need that, you're going to need all these things. And then I saw student films, and they were going out with, with their, yeah, absolutely, and they were making films because they had a good story to tell, but they looked great. So to me, seeing that happen, you know, an identity can be generated through just going out and getting the right people to work. And if you can get the money, obviously, to do stuff, it's brilliant. But we can still do it without some of the funds just because we're friends. Yeah. You get a couple of shots where it's because you're friends, and then you have to find money somewhere down the line. Doing storyboards, my background, I'm an artist first. I do comic strips. I spent years doing comic strips, and then I started doing film work, and it seemed like a natural progression because a storyboard is basically like a comic strip, except it's restricted on the frame size, and you have to be very aware of how the camera moves, and it's one of those things that, of course, that is the expanse of your thinking helps you know how to move the cameras about in your head.
Is that a crucial thing when you create?
Well, I think it's important, yeah, because you have to know. Well, first off, you have to know the image you want to see on screen, and then, of course, you find out what the camera can actually do. Because I remember when I first started, I was drawing images that were single image, single image, single image, until I learned that, wait a minute, that camera can move like this, but it can also do this, and it can also turn around and see something else. And so suddenly you were realizing there was nothing impossible. So your storyboarding became more complex on the basis of what the director would want you to be doing. Initially your head would... wouldn't have worked that out. But over the years, yes, I understand more and more about how these things move. And then when I directed some commercials back home, then I did realize again, the camera can do so much more than what I'd thought, and it's really interesting then when you realize that, once you put it up on a big rig, your camera is moving around all over the place, so things that you're trying to capture, you can.